What is up, Twitch and the latter, which will be on YouTube? It is Die Hard here with the TPP Podcast. And normally I have some other guests with me. However, today I do not have any additional guests. I wasn't sure if I was going to do the podcast or not this week. And so I got some really good questions I'm going to go through that I got on my Ask FM today. And I'm just going to touch base on some TPP related stuff. So with that being said, we're going to switch it to gameplay. We get to see an Iron Man match between The Rock and Triple H in the Judgment Day Arena. You know, vintage Rock, vintage Triple H for our 60-minute Iron Man match. And this way we don't have to hear any game audio. I now have my, I guess it helped if my controller wasn't turned off. But, okay, there we go. All right. So here we go. Into this Iron Man. So, I guess since this is beginning, it's time for me to start getting into the subject of TPP-related stuff. And it kind of intertwines with the questions that people asked on Ask FM today. Most notably, the first question I got was, where do you see TPP going in 2K14? Well, that's kind of a two-way situation because we have some really big plans for 2K14, but at the same time, we're not going to completely try to reinvent the wheel and do something completely unheard of. We're still going to stick to doing what we know works, and whether it's the weekly show or or event like the CPVs, pay-per-views, and like the live wire thing. We're still going to do all those things, but we are going to do a couple of things new that I hope everybody likes. And so that's why I really wanted to get that question out there first. Whoever asked it earlier, it was a great question because I've been getting a lot of questions, whether it was on YouTube, on my Xbox, on my Ask FM. People were asking about tryouts. And I don't want to say this and sound mean or inconsiderate to opening up to new people, because that's not what we're always about, bringing on new people. However, we have a very specific, I don't want to say protocol, but we have a specific way that we bring in new people. And it tends to be people that we work with or that we know, that we trust. Which is evident as to what happened after Network Collision. We lost 3 of our 4 developmental talents. We lost George Phillips, Gravity. He had quit a couple of weeks before that. We lost Michael Kelly. He parted ways, and he's going to go be in another league. And myself and Darrell kind of got into a little bit of a dispute, and we didn't really have anywhere to book him, so we released him. And again, I have no negative animosity toward any of those 3. However, it does kind of suck. But crap happens, I guess. You can't change the world, right? So moving into 2K14, when we do tryouts and when we bring new people in, it's going to be somebody that we know, that we trust. Because unfortunately, which was very apparent with George Phillips, we invested time into George Phillips because he was meant to be the guy that we were going to pull up onto the main show, and that shouldn't come as any surprise. He was out of those 4 people, I had worked with Gravity the most, and so he was going to be that guy that was going to get pulled up, and we didn't end up pulling him up because he had quit. So, like I said, it wasn't an emotional investment, but it was an investment for the power plant. We invested time into his character. Like, we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have Billings build this guy up as this really, a legit developmental character that's gonna try to make his big break and, try to magically get brought up to frontline and possibly be in a tag team later on down the road or whatever. And so none of that happened. And so it became wasted time, wasted storyline time. Like time we could have been focusing somebody else's progression. Like James Mackay or Ryan James or Lance Owens even. The jobber of the power plant, my own personal job, or Bryson. Any of those guys we could have helped further develop their characters. Instead, we invested a lot of our resource into trying to figure out how we were going to make Gravity seem very solid as a developmental character, and get his match pacing down, and get him comfortable with working with the other TPP guys. Unfortunately, he whatever his thing was, he wanted to leave. He said he was going to leave leagues, and he came back with the new gamer tag or whatever. So whatever, again, no hard feelings towards the guy, but if he ever listens to this, please do not attempt to reapply for the power plant, because you will automatically be denied, just on the premise that we can't trust you. At this point, he showed to be unreliable to us, so we can't trust him. And that kind of has, and about impatience, and the thing is, like, I don't know. Like, I'm just now looking at chat. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat. I was just kind of looking at the Ask FM thing. But, honestly, like, I got Admin Animal in here, and he's like, why would people want to leave TPP? I couldn't tell you. Everybody's got their own quirks and decisions that they want to make. Everybody's got the right to do that. It's your game. You can do what you want to do with it. And then I always tell people, I was like, if you want to run spam the crap out of somebody, you go do that. If you want to, sim with somebody 24/7, you do that. It's your game. But when you're wrestling in a TPP match, it's my game. It's my rules. Just do what I ask you to do, and everything works just fine. And unfortunately, with developmental, sometimes you take that gamble. Sometimes it's people you've never worked with, or sometimes it's people that come in and they think they kind of got a little chip on their shoulder. And me and Admin Animal talked about this after last week's podcast, but, a lot of people want to always be Randy Orton or Daniel Bryan or CM Punk, or Stone Cold or Triple H or like The Rock. Everybody wants to be that guy. And unfortunately, with any show, and if there's any other league owners watching, or people that are interested in starting up leagues and feds, I would say, you're going to have – it takes a very certain level, because you want to be friends with everybody. You want everybody to be happy, but you got to be assertive. You have to let people know what's up. It's like if it's a bad judgment call, then you need to say, this is a bad judgment call if we do this. And I had a real problem, and I'll be the first to admit, I had a horribly bad problem with doing that, for like 2 years. I was always letting people get in my ear and say, oh, we should do this, and then I was doing it, and we would end up going really stagnant in the power plant. Things would just, really get out of hand. And exactly, and I just saw this in the chat, but it is ironic, because the guys, they want to imitate other players, or the bigger, more popular people in real life, because they're trying to base themselves off of people they see in real life. I mean, we all, whether you're called a diva, a superstar, whatever, everybody tries to imitate somebody to a certain extent, whether it's mannerisms or maybe match psychology, but it's tough because you got to put your own unique twist on it. And like Makai is saying, you want to make yourself stand out. And most people that try to mimic Randy Orton, they don't stand out. And some of the stand-out, and I know that everybody hates Orton when he does promos, like in real life, because he's horrible at them, because he's so monotonic with his voice. And he's like he's full of one-liners, literally. And he's always have to try to remember his lines. But it's the truth. That's part of his gimmick, his mannerisms. One-liners, very, very monotonic when he talks. And so people got to be like, this guy sucks, and then he has to draw heat, and like I was saying, as a league owner or a guy that runs a fed, whatever, however you run it, you have to be willing to make those kind of judgment calls, because I could say to everybody, oh yeah, if you want to be like Triple H, you want to be like Randy Orton, oh, you want to be like Randy Orton too, you too? Okay, yeah, that just wouldn't work. You can't have three apex predators, I guess. And I make this joke a lot in the parties, and I say you can't be an apex predator when you're 198 pounds going against guys that are like 240 or more in weight class. I mean, it's kind of in a real life situation that would be true. I mean, I get it, it's a game, but in a real life situation that would be true. And one thing we do when we do the show, we try to envelop everybody that's watching the show or part of the show. We try to envelop them in the show. Like, the show is a fantasy world. It's a fantasy that we get to act out. But in real life, the me in real life is very boring. I haven't shaved in quite a while, and I don't look as cool as Die Hard in real life, but I still look pretty sweet. I try to carry some of the mannerisms. I carry mannerisms from like Triple H, from like the Attitude Era, I guess. I don't know. Maybe the Ruthless Aggression type era. But I don't know. I like the way Die Hard stayed the same, over the course of, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, something like that. I've always had the same kind of attitude. He's always been the guy that always tried to pick on the smaller guys. That's the Die Hard character. To be honest, I love the smaller guys. Like James McKay, he is so small compared to Scythe, and nobody ever realizes that except, us TPP guys, because we get to see all the, I guess the behind the scenes or the in-between stuff, but we get to see all of that, and it's so cool because I love rooting for the underdog. I love rooting for the smaller guy, and maybe that's why I like James McKay so much. Maybe that's why I liked Explicit so much when he was with the Power Plant, last year. Maybe that's why, because I've always been a fan of the underdog. Because I, in real life, am a relatively, I'm not a big guy. I mean, I'm skinny, I'm tall, but, I don't know, maybe that's why I like the underdogs. But I always like the underdogs. And so when it comes to playing your part, the only reason we have Die Hard, doing like the bullying kind of storyline is because that's who Die Hard is. That's what he does. He's been a bully his entire career. And so that's why we integrated my wife into the storylines, because she's like the Linda McMahon, and I'm like the Vince McMahon. I'm like trying to say, oh, you got to be, 250 pounds, and she's saying no, anybody can do it. And that's the whole thing to it. And then we got a replicated character of my son, which would be way futuristic because my son's only 6, and so we have to play the part. It's like, I've got to play the part of this really mean, egotistical, self-loathing, money-hungry, old man, retired wrestler type guy, and Melinda's got to be. That's why, and everybody thinks I'm joking. Like, people in the parties think I joke when I say this, but that's why Melinda gets so nervous when she does her voiceovers. Because for me, I can just kind of flip a switch, and I can be ready to do like a promo, and I usually just do them, right off the seat of my pants. But with Melinda, she can't. Because she wants to know what she should say and what she shouldn't say. Otherwise, she would end up saying something that would be out of character and make her seem more like, an evil Melinda. And nobody wants to see an evil Melinda, right? Everybody wants to rise against Die Hard, so they all need the good girl, the Melinda that in game is like 44, but she looks like she's 20. That one. That's the Melinda they need. And again, it all comes down to playing the part. And some people can't play the part, and I think with the guys we have now, they play their part so well, especially, and I know everybody thinks I'm like really high on James McKay, but whether you realize it or not, he is so good at working with Scythe, and I'm trying to give Scythe just the anonymity, or the ability to stay anonymous of who controls him, but he just works, they mesh so well together, so well. And, it's just, and see, look, I got people saying I can rely on them now. See, that's good. That's the thing. We're always about reliability. Anybody who has followed the power plant, whether it's 1 month, 6 months, 3 years, 4 years, however long, you see what we do. We try to crank everything out weekly. I know sometimes when I make my videos, it seems like I'm trying to say bad things about shows that take longer. I'm not trying to make a direct attack like that. I'm just trying to help motivate. And I was actually talking to Alex J. Eric about this earlier, but it's all about motivation when it comes to running a show. You've got to be able to motivate everybody on your roster. You got to be able to keep yourself motivated. And sometimes, it's hard to stay motivated. You get real life situations that happen. A couple of months ago, my wife totaled my car. And we were in the middle of, I think we were actually recording or getting ready. No, we were getting ready to record a tryout, and my wife had totaled my car, so I had to leave. I was like, I got to go. And then I was down without a car for, I don't know, like just a couple of days, but then I said I had to get the car legal. I had to do some repairs on it and stuff. So, just real life things like that, they do happen. And that's one thing, like if you are going to run a league, you got to be understanding. You have to be kind of flexible, but at the same time that you're being flexible, you have to be assertive enough to say, hey, look, if we're doing this weekly, we've got to get it done. And we've had problems like that before where people don't, get stuff taken. Oh, yeah. It was James Mackay's tryout match. My wife totaled my car, and I had to go. I didn't have a choice, and he's like, okay. He's like, what you got to do? And I was like, that's right. I was like, I got to go. I just kind of like threw my controller down real quick, and I just took off out the door. But yeah, flexibility, and that's always a big thing, because anybody can work a match, but and this all ties into playing the part, but you have to be able to play the part. You have to. If you can't get yourself involved in what your character is doing, like if you don't feel any type of emotion, if you're just like, oh, well, I'm just using an animated character in a video game, because like I said, we try to captivate or really involve ourselves with what we're doing. So a good example, as I hope everybody that's watching now saw at Network Collision, Scythe and Mackay. I mean, they were like, we were laughing and having a blast in the match, but it was such, excuse my language, but it was like a mind fuck. It was great watching it. It was so good watching it. I enjoyed watching the entire thing. And as you saw, I mean, there was very little downtime, and that's one thing that's really important to have when you're going through the motions, especially for people that record. And I want to keep that kind of pace going into 2K14, which ties back into the original question of, where do we see the power plant going in 2014 or for 2K14. We don't plan on stopping the weekly segments. I have no plans on stopping anytime soon. I am really enjoying it this time around, and that's good, because usually it would become a chore, and it just kind of wears you out, and it'd make you feel like the reward that you were getting wasn't worth, the time you were investing. And that happens in a lot of places. It's happened in the power plant a couple of times, and kind of, I would say I'd blame it on those that came in and were trying to whisper in my ear, but it wasn't all their fault. It was my fault too, because I wasn't putting my foot down and saying, no, this is how we do it. And how we've done it with the power plant always is, I've always been that guy, the big boss man, and so that kind of helps with, my diehard character too. It's very easy. Like I said, it's very easy for me to get into the diehard character, because all I got to do is just look at some of the stuff I get on Twitter sometimes in my direct messages, or look at my YouTube messages, or look at the comments that get removed once in a while on my various channels. They're all like, F you, diehard, and, stupid stuff like that. And it just makes it that much easier to get into character. And, like I said, it comes down to playing the part. And so when it comes to 2K14, I'm still going to play my part. I'm still going to be diehard. I'm still going to be that evil, egotistical, money-hungry, old seething geezer that everybody pokes fun at, because that's just the way diehard is. And I hope that James Mackay sticks around. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think he's having fun. I hope he is. And we got some big stuff planned. I'm going to actually go into my second question, because I think that was a good lead-in for that one. Because my second question was, do you have anyone else lined up for special appearances on Frontline, like I did with AC Arthurs and with Nick Virtue? So we're going to do in the order of their appearances. So Virtue, he appeared at Urban Warfare when Die Hard fought Jerry Graham. Now, I'm not saying Nick wasn't a good choice. Nick was a great choice. I love Nick, okay? I love Nick. Nick was not my first choice. My first choice, I was trying to get in contact with the guys who created the league called CAW, which stood for Computer Animated Wrestling. That was the first league I was ever in, and their names were Styles with a Z, and then Kiros, or Troy and Josh. And so I was trying to get a hold of them. I was trying to come into contact with them and say, hey, look, could you guys just do this quick voiceover And I couldn't get a hold of them. I tried and tried and tried, couldn't get a hold of them. So I was like, all right. I was like, so I'm going to go to the Xbox side then. Because we'd asked Maverick from MCW, the owner of MCW, if he'd do it. Maverick said he had, a lot of stuff going on, and he couldn't, he didn't really have the time because they're still trying to, get stuff finished up for their YouTube stuff, and they had some stuff going on. So I was like, all right. I was like, I'll just go right to the Xbox side. I was like, I'll send a message to Nick. If Nick doesn't want to do it, then we just won't do the voiceover part. Well, Nick was like, yeah, sure. He's like, what do you want me to say? So I just sent him a little pre-dialogue of what I was going to say. And then as you saw at Urban Warfare, he had his 60-second promo spot there in the backstage area with me and Melinda, and it turned out really good. He was like, man, don't get into this match. And then all of a sudden, Die Hard beats Jerry Graham. Go figure. So then we're going to fast forward a little bit. So we're going to go to episode 19. The situation for Arthur's, it was kind of just a spur of the moment type thing. Arthur's had sent me a message, and he's like, hey, would you like me to participate in a TPP match? And at the time, the opponent for Hazard at the time it wasn't anybody important. I don't want to say that because I don't want anybody to think that it was like somebody like, it wasn't James Mackay or anybody like that. It was a jobber character we were going to have go against Hazard anyways. And I was like, well, shit. I was like, we can do Arthur's versus Hazard. It never happened in TPP. It'll never probably happen again. But we got to see Craig Hazard, the TPP champion, versus AC Arthur's, who, got to start in the power plant. And I was like, man, this is a really good match. And that's why we let the match go on so long. There was technically 3 different parts to that match, which we flowed it very well, and I really liked it. And for those of you that don't know Arthur's, I mean, he's a very cool, relaxed, he's really cool. He's a cool guy. And like I say this every time I mention him, but I hope things get better in his situation, I haven't talked to him in a few days, so like I said, hopefully everything gets better. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, everybody should love Andy. He's always been a team player. Always. I've never ever had a time where he wasn't a team player. And I still get a lot of questions on my Ask FM about this, but people are like, well, you had the most popular guy in Con in your league and you let him go. It wasn't that I let him go. We were on a hiatus, and he wanted something to fill that void. It's just the way it is. There was no negative feelings from me, when he went to TXW, because when he went to TXW, they had enough eyes on him, to really help him completely blow up, But at least before he went into TXW, he had experience of working with another league, a league that was getting recorded and going up on YouTube. So in that sense, it was good. I mean, I'm not saying that we just launched his career, but had styles that was in TPP, not the styles that ran computer animated wrestling, but had Stephen Petit from California. That's the styles that we did the Die Hard style storyline with back in 2011. Had he not found AC Arthur's at the time and called me and said, we got to get this guy on the show. We got to get this guy. He's going to be big. Had he not done that, I mean, who knows where AC Arthur's would be? We don't know. We'll never know, but let's not even worry about that because we know that he's a great guy and we all love him. Andy is the guy. He is the guy, the last legit NGC champ, right? The last legit one. But yeah, so AC Arthur was a great guy, and to go back to the question of, future special appearances. We don't specifically have any lined up yet. I have some ideas floating around up in my head, for 2K14 and beyond. But we are open to appearances, and it's not like you have to have 1,000 followers or nothing like that. I'm not that type of a person. I mean, if you've got 1 follower, fine. That's whatever, I am more than happy to put you somewhere on my show. But you gotta, if you want to do something like that, you can't just kind of spring it on me. Because, unfortunately, most of you don't know this. But, and my controller just turned off again. I tell you, I gotta stop using these wireless controllers. But, so we're gonna kind of go behind. You're getting a little bit of the taste of the behind the scenes of TPP, but we record a large portion of our material in one sitting or in one day, or we try to get as much done as we can. So everything you guys are seeing on October or for these coming episodes like 25, 26, 27, 28, and then end games, a lot of it's already done. Like, we just have a couple more matches we got to finish up, and that's, in a sense, it makes it easier for, the TPP guys, because then it allows them the rest of the month to take care of the business they got to take care of. Yeah, I used to have a play and charge kit, but it broke. Okay, so so before I go to my other question, did you send it to me on Ask, or did you just post it in the chat box here? Okay. Okay, so the question is, if you see this, I have a question. Those new to Ka wrestling shows have a hard time playing for entertainment. Is it best to be strict with them or to allow them to groove themselves into it? Okay, so this one's got two answers. This is a two-part answer. And I say that because when the power plant first started in 2010, we were a competitive league. We did everything competitive. I was like, I will write the storylines based on whoever wins. Now, I mean, you can do it like that, and it works. But then, as time progressed, things became more of a simulation base to them. People were like, oh, but let's do an entertaining match instead of just seeing who the better man is. Because in all honesty, and I mentioned this earlier on Twitter, but anybody can have a good competitive match. Like, you could go and have a competitive match with somebody, and it could be good, back and forth action or whatever. But the real magic to simulation is what happens from bell to bell. That's what makes a match good, great, bad, shitty, or spectacular. And I know I did that totally backwards, like on scaling. But every match you want to go into, you want to be spectacular. Everybody wants to be like Nick Virtue or Scott Barnett or Arthurs or Monroe. Everybody wants to do that, right? I mean, that's the way it is. And so what I would say, if somebody's new, if they are just getting into it, if they've strictly been, a competitive player, even up into, like, here's a good example. If X2 Twisted joined a league right now, a full-on sim league right now, he's a competitive player. Now, he may be able to do the simulation style, but there's so many forms of simulation. There's, like, strong style. There's, and I give them all nicknames. There's the Seller. There's the Glory Hound, the Spot Monkey. And then there's just the person who don't give a fuck. And you want to be like a mixture between the Seller, the don't give a fuck, and the Glory Hound, because you want to be able to get your spots off, but you got to give your, the spots to the people you're working with. And I know that those names don't. I know. I feel the sarcasm in that comment, but it's just kind of the way it is. I've always been very brutally honest about stuff, and that's kind of how I feel. I mean, there's people that are spot monkeys. Like, that's all that they go for. They just go for a big spot to just try to, and that's why everybody calls RVD a glorified spot monkey, because he just does things for a pop, to try to get people behind him. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, but you can't do every match just like that. There's got to be more substance to it, which I think when we first introduced James McKayan, we introduced him. He was kind of taking like the position of a spot monkey at first there, like when he's fighting the bigger guys, because you knew when he hit that spine buster and he did it slower, then it was going to be the devolution, the cloverleaf. It was going to be the submission. But then when we put him in the match with Scythe at Network Collision, we had him show a whole different kind of realm, which in real life, it was just him pressing a few extra buttons on this controller. But in the match, it was like, man. And I had so much fun doing commentary on that match. And so I would say if you're brand new, if you came in strictly competitive, if you really, really wanted to work with new people, when I say new people, I mean people you don't normally work with, I would say that they would have to they'd have to adapt. They would have to. And then if it was on the other foot, like a league owner or somebody that was booking the matches or recording the matches, there's kind of two ways you could do it. Like you said, you could be strict with them and say you're doing it all wrong, or you could be like, I understand you're new. Let's see what we can do to fix this. Make this better. Or you could also be like, oh, you're new. You're just a douchebag. You don't know how to sim. So there's so many different avenues, but it depends for the league owner on what route you take. What response you give to that new person. Are you going to, completely exile that person just because they're new to the simulation play style, and then you're going to say, nope, you're not good enough. You shall not pass. Or are you going to say, all right, we get it. You're new, so let's take a little bit of extra time to work with you. But if we're going to work with you, we want to make sure that you're going to, stick with this and not bail on us, after a month or something like that. That is a very, very important thing. So when it comes, like, I used to be the guy that was like, nope, you can't cut it. You're not good enough. I was that guy. I will never, like, when people say that I'm an asshole, that's probably why they say I'm an asshole, because I was an asshole, straight up. In 2010 and beginning of 2011 there, I was a complete douchebag. Not even going to lie to you guys. I was a complete douche. But then I was like, you know what? I was like, I can't exile these new guys coming in. A lot of them have no experience in leagues, and they see something they like, and they want to be a part of it. So all you have to do is just keep that motivation in them, especially for league owners. I mean, I've had people come in before that were so motivated because they wanted to be in a league. And we actually have a current guy like that right now, Jimmy B. Martinez. He was so motivated. He had never been in a league before. He'd only done the text feds. And he's like, I've never done a league thing before. How does this work? And he was so excited. He was like a sponge, just soaking up all the information we were giving him. And so those are the type of people you want to keep around. You want to keep them motivated. I mean, yeah, sure. Jimmy B. Martinez knows he can work on his matches a little bit, but he's putting on solid matches when he's with the people he's working with. And that's a very important key spot for him, to be able to put on those kind of solid matches, because he normally didn't play in the video game realm of telling a story. It was just, writing out the story and then going from there. And then, yeah, exactly. It's more like the simulation style is kind of, it is kind of like a mentality. But for some people they call it a style, but it is a mentality. I mean, everybody at some point in time played competitively. I mean, we weren't all selling spots to the computer, from the day we picked up the games. And for some people, we've been playing the games for a really long time, pre the SmackDown versus Raw games, back when there was still like 8-bit systems. They don't make those anymore. But exactly, people do. They got to accept a few things before they have great sim matches. And one thing is, it's a big trust issue. A lot of people don't trust who they're playing. And so that's the barrier we try to break in TPP. We're like, you know what? You can trust who you're working with. We're not going to try to put you against somebody that you can't trust. And it's not that it makes a person bad. It's just, it's hard to trust people, especially in a game that tailors to being competitive. That's, just the way it is. It tailors to being competitive. And, originally the plan was for developmental, that was what our plan was. We were going to, kind of teach them the ropes. That was the plan. Unfortunately, the guy that was supposed to be able to record, his computer went defunct on him. And so I was like, I don't want no extra work. And so we kind of force-fed them everything at once. But again, you got to be like a sponge. If you're in developmental, you got to be a sponge. You have to be willing to learn. And some people, I'm not saying anybody in developmental was like this, but I'm not saying anybody wasn't. But you've got to be willing to learn and to evolve. When you come in as a developmental guy, you got to look at it as a totem pole. You're on the bottom of the totem pole, and everybody's going to be like, oh, this new guy. And then kind of, turn their nose up to you because they're like, oh, well, we don't know if this guy can do any good. We don't know if he's worth the time. And those that come through it and do show that they're worth the time, those are the guys that you want to keep around. And that's why, like, when everybody went crazy with when Alex Eric got into PWR, I was like, congratulations. I was like, that's good. Like I went and I saw him in Rose Ask FM. They're like, how much ass you got to kiss to get into PWR? It's not a matter of kissing ass. It was just a matter of he was a good fit. Simple as that. He's a good fit, and they enjoy playing with him. That's why they brought him in, And if there's somebody you want, you will make room for them. That's just the way it is. That's the way life works. I mean, yeah, there was a departure, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, that's the way life works. You're gonna always have that special spot for people you work with. It's just the way it is. And then, exactly, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Sometimes I do say that to the developmental guys, And I know I said this on our pre-show before Network Collision, but when I say, I'm not joking when I say CAW wrestlers are a dime a dozen. I mean, mostly everybody that's in here right now is probably spoken for, in a league or a fed, but there are people, that may stumble on this, and they know that they don't have a league or a fed, and they want to get somewhere. And, it's like that. Like, so when we lost our 3 out of our 4 developmental guys, it was a little bit of a percentage hit because it was like, man, we have a 25% success rate. That's how you could break that down, 25% success rate for our developmental program. I don't look at it like that, though, because that statistic is incorrect. Because the original winner was supposed to be George Phillips, who left early because he said he didn't want to do CAW anymore, and now he's back. So he was gone for like 2 weeks. He decided he wanted to come back. And that's okay, I'm okay with that. And like I said, he'll never be welcomed back into TPP, ever again, just because I can't trust him now. It's not even a trust thing. It's just the fact that I don't want to invest the time into him and have him, bail again, because that is the hardest thing to cover up for. I mean, you try to cover up for it when you do commentary, like if you're the commentary person for your show or the commentary team, but it's hard because usually people know you're bullshitting, and that's the worst part. Like, people know when you're lying to them, especially when you're like, oh, so-and-so got injured, or if you have to storyline write somebody off. And, again, it's always about trust. It comes down to trust. You got to be able to trust those that you're working with. And that's why leagues are very selective who they let in usually. They're like, well, we want to work with somebody that's cooperative, somebody that's a team player, And that's why, like, in our application it says, do you believe in self-improvement or show improvement? You would be surprised how many people actually put self-improvement. Like, a large portion of our applications that we deleted were self-improvement. And I was like, really? Really? Just self-improvement? You don't give a shit about the show. You just care about getting your face on YouTube, for 10 to 15 minutes? I was like, that is not the type of person I want. I want somebody that's like, I want the person that's going to say, I want to do what it's going to take to make the show as good as I possibly can. That's all we want. Just do whatever you got to do, handle your business, and just play your part in your match. Play your part. That's all I want people to do. And, so let's see. Yeah, exactly. I see, again, all PWR staff, and that's just the way it is, Hopefully, I know everybody boos George Phillips, but hopefully George Phillips is, I don't know, maybe he changed his ways. It's possible. And I just noticed in the chat, but yeah, I congratulated Phoenix on getting in. So, I no issue, no qualm at all. I know I misspoke. I said Alex J. Eric, but I meant Joshua Phoenix. I do apologize for that excitement of the moment. But yeah. So anyway, so we're gonna go into the next question because I did that all in one breath. Can you believe that? I was just kind of like sucking in air as I was going. I feel like such a beast right now. Okay. So this was one that I saw, and this is like I saw this question earlier, and I was like, man, I'm going to talk about this stuff on the podcast tonight. So tonight's all call related, and tonight's a really positive night. I have a really good vibe going on right now. I feel really good. As someone planning on creating a call show, do you have any advice or, tips? And so of course, we kind of touched base on a lot of it, but one of the most important parts is motivation. It's all about motivation. You can ask anybody who's been in a league that even the godforsaken fam. And we all know I don't like fam. Anybody who knows me knows I do not like fam. Even them. It takes motivation. You have to be able to motivate those that you're working with. You've got to be able to keep yourself motivated, because there's days when I wake up and I'm like, man, I really don't want to record today. But I know in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, today's technically a recording day. And I was like, oh, I just don't want to, because the last thing you want to do, you don't want to be in a situation Exactly. If people don't speak up, then nothing will improve. But if like if you can't muster the strength to motivate yourself, how are you supposed to motivate a roster of 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, 40, 50, 60, however many people you end up having? You have to be able. Well, Michael Kelly, he parted ways with TPP. Unfortunately for Michael Kelly, he parted ways, and I guess he's going to. I don't want to say the league's name because I don't know if I'm going to get it wrong or not, and I don't want to sound like a complete a-hole. I'm going to go out on. I'm going to take a guess. I think it's DPW. Is it Destiny Pro Wrestling? Dynasty Pro Wrestling? I think. I'm not 100% sure. He never told me the exact league he was going to, but I kind of looked at his Twitter feed and saw who he was talking to, and I was like, okay. I mean, I'm not mad at the guy. He felt that he wasn't being used enough, and I told him, I was like, well, if you would have taken a look at the October's cards. Okay, Destiny. Okay, I'll remember that from now on. I keep thinking Dynasty. I don't know why. For some odd reason, I keep thinking Dynasty, and it's throws everybody off. But yeah. So I mean, I wish him the best. Even though me and him kind of had a verbal lashing out at each other, but I wish him the best. So, hopefully he learned something while he was in TPP developmental. I don't know, but yeah, like I was saying, to motivate. To be able to motivate yourself, you just have to be able to. You have to kind of reach down inside and be like, "Oh, gotta do this recording today and get this done." But then you got to look at the light at the end of the tunnel, and think, "Man, if I get this done today, I got tomorrow, the day after, the day after, and the day after, and the day after to do whatever the hell I want to do." I could play GTA 5 all day. I could play some Call of Duty Black Ops 2. I could go buy an Xbox One. Things like that. Whatever. Whatever it is people want to do. I don't even have Black Ops 2 anymore. I don't know why I said Black Ops 2. But, people, that's the hard part for a lot of league owners. And that's why so many of them pop up and then fade away. It's very hard to keep a consistent weekly schedule. It is so, so hard. And that's why when I kind of try not to get too excited when I see shows say, yeah, if the servers will allow it, exactly. But I try not to get too excited when I see new leagues popping up, because I know, especially when they say they're going to be weekly, I know the wear and tear it takes. It is such a mentally ravishing ordeal. Everything is everything becomes a really big task. It's like, oh man, it's like you got to get this edit to go with this one, or you got to find a cutscene to transition to this one. If you want the match to flow, good ways. So it's just, yeah, it's really nice when you have a full team working together, but then there's also the barrier of, well, did so-and-so make this cutscene look the right way? Will it make a good transition from this one to this one? And so for the power plant, we've always ran a one-man recording and editing team. That's always been me. I've always been that guy that recorded, edited, commentated, did all that good stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm super happy, And sometimes, and the part that makes it very unpleasant is when you do get people getting in your ear saying, oh, hey, we should do this, or hey, you should push me to the title. That's at that point, that's when it starts, it goes beyond just a mental drain. I've been to the point where I've been physically exhausted. Like I've sat in front of my computer after recording, and I was editing, and I've literally fallen asleep at my desk, just from exhaustion, from just staring at pixels for so long. I was just like, I can't do this anymore, And I just got a question on my Ask. Somebody asked, when are you going, and I think it's the same person that asked this before, but when are you going to stop doing cause shows? Like I responded before, I don't know. It could be this year or, this coming year after 2K14. It could be 2K15. It could be 2K30 for all I know. I don't know. I'm 26 now. And my son is really, he loves watching. He will watch TPP. That he watches the live stream with you guys when you watch it. When when Frontline's on, he'll sit on the couch and we just put it on the TV and he'll watch it. And that's when I'm sitting in the chat box chatting. He's watching it and he's like cheering. He's like, oh yeah, Junior, whatever he does, that's what he's doing. But I don't know how long I'm gonna be doing it. Hopefully, long enough to help people out. Because I want to help people. I'm not here to hurt. I'm not here to try to belittle anybody. That's not the type of person I am. I mean, the character is portrayed as an a-hole. I know this. I know Dyert's portrayed as being a mean douchebag, but that's not the type of person I am. You can ask anybody in TPP what I'm like. I think I'm a relatively easygoing guy. I'm pretty easy to talk to. If you've got a situation, be like, hey, this is going on. Can I have some time? I'm usually pretty understanding about it as long as, just keep me updated, what's going on. That's all I ask. And like I said, I'm here to help people. I'm not here to say, oh, your show sucks. I'm here to say, well, you could try this, And that's why I did that video earlier on my TPP2K channel. Maybe it was it was yesterday's video, but it was called Dem Damn Colleagues, and it was an audio thing because right now I don't have my mixer hooked up. I've been having some issues with it. Like, I don't know, I think I broke one of my input jacks, but so I have to probably get that replaced. But what I do when I do my commentary or like when I do any promos, and as you see, my house phone, which sounds so cool when it rings, and people always do this on the podcast. They always call when I'm doing a podcast, but like I was saying, so I totally lost my train of thought there. Give me a second. I was saying something good, and I don't even remember what it was. I hate having to. I totally lost my train of thought there, so I do apologize. That phone hadn't rang. Oh, that's right. So my mixer broke and cleaning up the audio. Okay. So what I normally do is I clean up all the audio on the promos, and then on my commentary, because one thing is, and I've noticed this with a lot of shows, the music is too loud. The way I've always seen this, and unless it's a special circumstance, you want these. And this is the order that it should go from lowest to highest. Your lowest sound should be the crowd. Your second lowest sound. Your second lowest sound should be the music. And I say the first lowest for the crowd because if you want it to be louder, that's easily adjusted. But for the music, you want that to be second lowest. And then you want your commentary to be louder than the music because you want to be able to hear your commentary over top of the music. And you want to be able to hear it without having to really struggle. And one thing I've noticed is what they'll do, instead of trying to clean up the audio, they'll just turn mic boost on and turn it up to like plus 20 dB. And then it sounds like your speakers are going to blow when you're listening to their commentary. I noticed that on the CCE episode 2. I was like, and so whenever, and I hope maybe somebody saw it from CCE and maybe they'll take it into consideration and try, what I recommended. They don't have to, but I'm a musician and sound is my forte. That's what I do. I like music. I like picking out sounds, and I like trying to hear things very crystal clear, because if you're making a video presentable at 720 or 1080p, your audio should match that. You want your audio to be crisp. You want it to be clean. You don't want it to be too distorted. Otherwise, when you're editing, it can cause issues. It can cause sound breaks, sound clips. And when I say sound clips, I guess I should have said sound peaks. And you can see that like on a waveform of like an audio track. You'll see you'll have the little kind of graph of like what the audio track looks like, and you'll see spots where it peaks all the way to the top and bottom, and that's a sound peak. And normally at that section, that's where the audio will make it sound like it's literally blaring through your speakers. It'll sound like you have your radio all the way up when you don't even have it all the way up, and that's an unfortunate side to shows. And a lot of people only have little $10, $15, $20 mics. And there's not a problem with that, because I did commentary for TPP for a long time with a $5 mic, to be honest. I mean, now I just use my Turtle Beach X11s because it doesn't have the HDMI deal on it or the optical cable hookup. It was just the regular 3/4 inch little mic jack. So, but yeah, but yeah, that's what that video was about. And like I said, I'm here to help. So for those that are just starting out, always cover your bases. Make sure you're going to be working with people that you want to work with. You don't want to make the mistake of having somebody come to you and say, look, man, I will help you launch your show to the next level. And then they get there, and all of a sudden they want the show to be just about them. That is the worst way anybody can be. That's the worst way to have it, because at that point, you almost feel powerless as a league owner or as a booker or however you want to look at yourself. I call myself a fed head for the simple fact that that's what I do. Basically, the power plant it's a text fed, but instead of text, we're a video fed. We just use video as our medium. That's what we do. But yeah, so you want to make sure that you associate with the right people. And when I say associate with the right people, I don't mean go kiss everybody's rear end. You don't have to do that. But just make sure that the people you're working with are people you want to work with, because some of those people, you will work with them for a very, very long time. Others, not so long. And it's going to happen. You're going to have people come in, and they're going to be with you forever. Literally, forever. You will not be able to get rid of them even if you try. I have people like that with me to this day. I cannot get rid of them. They just, for some odd reason, they keep coming back, and I love them. I love them to death. That's the thing. I love them to death. So I'm glad that they're with me for the crazy ride that I take. But it's like you're also going to get people that are going to come in, and yeah, they're going to put themselves as the main person. They believe, and I hate saying it. I hate going back to earlier in the podcast, but the Randy Orton thing I was saying earlier. No, everybody wants to be Orton. Everybody thinks they can drop pipe bombs like CM Punk. Everybody thinks, that they're exactly. Everybody thinks that they're Kevin Nash, And unfortunately, we try to give everybody full creative control, for the most part. With their characters, like I don't tell somebody, hey, you should wear this, unless I really think it would help, and then I'll recommend something along that line. But I normally don't tell people what to wear or how to act. If they want to be a bad guy, then be a bad guy. You want to be a good guy? Be a good guy. But if you have a character that can portray either a good or a bad guy, which I don't know if you guys caught this or not, but James Mackay is technically a bad guy. He's a bad guy. He's a bad man. But he's portrayed as a face in the power plant. His character was, and when I said this, he probably thought I was trying to insult him, but I said that his character was generic enough with his appearance that he could be a face or a heel. And I didn't say like the generic part in a bad way. I do not mean that in any form of disrespect. I love James Mackay to death. I love him to death. But yeah, I remember I told him that in the party, and he just kind of got quiet. And I was like, no. I was like, I'm not saying it in a bad way, and I mean that in the best way possible. When you have somebody that's as diverse, and that's a unique trait to have, because when I say generic, I don't mean like a generic face or a generic attire. I mean I guess the attitude from his character would be generic enough that you could make him a good guy or a bad guy and make it work. And at this juncture, he's a good guy in TPP. So anywhere else he appears, he may be a bad guy. Yeah. Your demeanor was basic enough. Exactly. Demeanor was basic enough so he could be a good guy, a face or a heel, and we played him as a face, and it works. It works splendidly. I love him. I love the way he works. Yeah. He's open enough. His character's open enough to do those things. Yeah, generic was not the right word. He's open enough to be in either direction. So I do apologize, Mackay. I don't think you're generic. I love you, just so you know. All right, final question here. Is there anyone you would like to have show up as a special guest on Frontline, and why? As many people as you care to mention. Okay, so this is a good one. I like this. I don't get to answer this kind of question very often. But, okay, so somebody I would like to show up on Frontline. Well, in all honesty. And this is going to span a lot of people. So it's going to be some people you guys may not even know who the hell they are. But I know who they are. And that's, for me, that's something. Well, of course, this goes without mentioning. But if I could come in contact with Josh and Troy again, I would love to have them just even for one appearance, just have them just appear once on my show. Just because when I started in computer animated wrestling, short name was Ka on '07 on the PS2, I was like, man, this is so cool. We weren't doing like a full show though. We were just one match at a time recordings. And I would just like them to see firsthand, what happened. Because I think a large portion of the people that were in Ka at the time kind of just faded away. There's not many left. I know I'm still here, and I know Suicide and Fam, he's still here, but his old name wasn't Suicide. He was Impact on the PS2. But yeah, those are like the only two. I mean, there was Leon. Like, he's still on my friends list on Xbox, but I don't talk to him anymore. So I don't know. I don't know what's up with him. But yeah, so I'd say Josh and Troy definitely. If I could get either one of them, but both of them it'd be awesome. I may get some slack from Maverick for this one, but Whoop-Ass from the PS3, he ran UWF. A lot of people on the PS3 didn't like Whoop-Ass because they were like, "Oh, you're just a black man on a power trip." Whoop-Ass was the first ever GM I had when I was in CAW. Like, I was originally, when I signed up there and got on the roster and stuff, they put me on Raw with Whoop-Ass, and Whoop-Ass gave me an opportunity. He's like, "Look," "we got a guy that's came in, he's been undefeated. You can fight him for the hardcore title." And I won. I was like, "Oh my God, I won!" And, I was really excited. And then at that point, he kind of pulled like the diehard character now. Like, he was like, "Nope, you're too small. Gonna have to make your life a living hell." And he did. Until eventually he fired me, but then they rehired me on the SmackDown, whatever. So yeah, Whoop-Ass. I'd want him to appear once. We tried to make it happen 2 years ago, but he didn't want to do it. Like, he had agreed to do it, and then he backed out. So he said he had some personal stuff going on. So if he was to approach me and say, "Hey, look, man, I'm ready to do that spot," I would do it. I would definitely do it. He's always been a close friend of mine, even if we weren't seeing eye to eye on stuff. He's always been a guy I'd like to, just show him, just show him, what my full length show looks like, from that perspective. I guess kind of going back into more modern people that people would know. Believe it or not, Shannon Silvera, I would have. I'm glad. I guess I'm not. It doesn't really bother me whether he's back or not. But yeah, Shannon Silvera. Just because me and him had so much heat in 2010, there was heat between me and him without any real reason for it. So yeah, he'd be one of those guys. I'd let him make a special guest appearance. I don't know about a match, but an appearance maybe. Of course, aside from Nick Virtue, who doesn't want Nick on their show, right? Everybody wants Nick to appear at least once. He's a pretty cool guy. He's very approachable about that. You just ask him if he wants a little spot, and if he wants one, he'll let you know. If he doesn't, then he doesn't. It's just the way it is. But I would love to have Nick on there again. I'd love to have Arthur's on there again. I would like to have Scott Barnett on the power plant, but not as Barnett, as John Russell's. When he started, because when I first met Barnett, he was Russell's, and that was in 5-Star Championship Wrestling, and I was co-running that with Nash, and so Nash didn't want to do it no more, so I was like, well, I don't want to lose these guys, and that's how we got Craig Hazard. Craig Hazard and John Russell's both came to the power plant. So yeah, Scott Barnett. In light of what somebody said that I was kissing Monroe's ass, I would say Monroe, only because I really like the way that I do commentary for him as Billings. I really like the way I do it. His character is very reminiscent of Muda, and so I've always been a big fan of Muda, like always. And so yeah, I like doing commentary for his character, and I think that would be a good reason. And plus, there was still some there's still a partial unburied hatchet between me and Monroe that would only be able to be settled, if he was allowed to whip the shit out of Zack Samararo with his Jufro and a thong. Exactly, that green mist dough. That's right, that green mist dough is evil. I love it though. And like I said, Monroe definite one I would love to, have on the show. Um, Des Holly. I've always been a DH fan. Go figure. Des Holly, diehard DH and DH. Yeah, the die Des hard Holly, or Holly hard. But I would say uh, newer newer guys that I haven't been as exposed to. I would like to. I mean, if he wanted to, like Joshua Phoenix, if he wanted to make an appearance, or even Alex J. Eric. And believe it or not, I may not be like Everett Creed's best buddy or his best pal, but if he wanted to make an appearance, I think I could make something happen for him. I could work some kind of angle on it, and that's the thing. Like I can always work an angle on something. I mean, the Arthur's return match, or that scenario was so fun, and we just kind of did everything on the seat of our pants after that, because I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna cut this promo and say he's the most expensive man in Ka, and stuff like that, and I know Monroe it drives him crazy when people say the term Ka, because technically Ka is short for create a wrestler. That's what it is. So that's why when we do the show, we try not to say like the Ka universe. We try to say the TPP universe. Because again, it's a fantasy world. We try to get everybody immersed in it as much as we can. Because in all reality, I'm not the best storyteller in my life. I know that. I'm sure others know that as well. But we try to make do with what we have, and although I may not be the most creative when it comes to booking, we do have other people that do help me with booking. So they're like, hey, we could do this. And I know it is so hard not to say the Ka universe, because it's kind of taken on its own name now. It really has. The things that shows have done are so, they're just beyond words. We went from a point of seeing one match at a time, to all of a sudden these full-scale shows with video packages, pyros, custom theme songs, commentary, these intriguing storylines, the different ability of everybody to be able to mix and match certain parts together to make it into this one big pile of poop we call shows, Ka shows. So that, I don't know, it's just, like you said, it's hard to not say Ka universe or the biggest names in all of Ka. It's hard not to say something like that, because it literally has taken on a mind of its own, or a realm of its own. It's exactly. Everything has evolved so much from just a competitive match to a show, to an event, and after an event will come a spectacle, which at that point, I think at the spectacle point. When people say a super show, I think that's what that would be. I think the spectacle would probably be a very large collaboration, between all gifted individuals. Hopefully, I mean, I don't think we'll see it anytime soon, because there's a lot of people don't work with certain people because of animosity or, hearsay, things like that. Hopefully, though, someday. I would, again, I would say I'd want 2TM to appear on my show. But me and him kind of had a falling out a couple of years ago. So, well, I would say the Simca Awards, but I don't know if that's going to be a spectacle. I haven't really been following. I did throw my hand in the mix as a possible commentator, as Billings, just because I really like getting involved as Billings for some odd reason. Like, I wouldn't want to do commentary as Diehard because, well, Diehard would be like, oh, he sucks. But Billings would be like, oh, this spectacular arm drag Hurricane Rana leg lock, something like that, something weird. But when I say spectacle, I guess it'd be more involved than just one person doing. Like I was saying, for the spectacle thing, it'd be more than one person. I did too, but sad to say, IWL is gone. IWL is gone. Oh, that is unfortunate. I didn't even see who won the Iron Man. Was it the Game or was it the Rock? Okay, we're gonna find out here. Oh, look at that rock bottom. Beautiful. Oh, the game won. My boy won. You know, I'm gonna sue Triple H for like copyright infringement. He'd be stealing my gimmick. Be bullying that D-Bry, I tell you. But so that's breaking news to me. See, I didn't even know. I thought that like I don't know if you guys saw or not, but that Cawmill guy, like he had posted a thing up on Twitter today, and I was kind of like, I was like, I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he's making the shit up or not. I really don't. But if I did, I'd be like, oh well, he's a liar. But if only. So the game or the DX Triple H won. Look at that. Suck it. Suck. They should have made like they should have gave him an alt attire that had like his trunks with the old Triple H logo on it. That would have been awesome. Well, that is definitely unfortunate. I was I wasn't mad that I got blocked from posting comments on the show. I was kind of hoping they were going to stick around a little bit longer. But again, it all branches into, running shows, it's tough. It's really, really tough. But I can tell everybody this. If you can make it past 3 months, okay, if you can make it 90 days, you can last. If you can make it past 90 days. Very few leagues make it, past the initial 90. When you get to 120 or 6 months, people are like, oh my God. And it's such a throwback. And so if you're planning on starting a league or if you're going to run one, you're going to have to, really push yourself, to try to be different. Because I hate saying it like this, but there's a lot of stereotypes for leagues and feds. It's like, oh, well, this ain't going to last that long. Or, this isn't going to last. And again, it comes down to a matter of forcing yourself to go above and beyond. Do the best you can. Here we go. Let's see the Miz and Randy Orton. That's a spectacular match and a half there, right? And just because I'm gonna wrap it up in about 15 minutes, so that's why I turned off entrances and stuff. But yeah. So if you are watching this now, or if you watch it on YouTube when it later, if you're gonna start a league, do everything in your power to be as productive as you can for the first 90 days. Because if you can be productive for 90 days, then every day after the 91st day is going to be a cakewalk. Unless your capture card messes up, or, some weird, stupid shit, or you get people that are like, oh, I don't, like, we've had this happen before, but our main event guy walked. It has happened. And it's happened in other leagues. I mean, I hate to say that, but it does happen. People do walk, Again, it's the unpredictability of people. And wow, Orton is really spamming that knee drop on Miz right now, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah. So, oh my God, computer, stop spamming him, Jesus, this is horrible. Look, see, this is why everybody wants to be Orton. But yeah. So, main event people, they walk. They will. That's what I'm saying, Randy Orton going try hard here on SmackDown. Look at that. Has Miz even gotten off the mat this entire match? Okay, that's the first time I think he's back to his feet. But yeah, so you're going to get people that'll walk. And the one thing is you don't get deterred by it. Do not let that deter you. I've seen it happen it's happened to me. Like when we lost our main event guy at the time, I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this, without having that focal point with me at the time. Which, in hindsight, I was like, oh, we're going to go on a hiatus. But I shouldn't have, because I still had 29 other people on my roster that were more than capable of carrying what we were doing. And at the time, I just didn't want to see it. I was only focusing on, that one specific person. Was it because they got in my ear a lot? Possibly. But it was also me being naive and dumb. And I think, wow, Orton is such a tryhard. I think at this point in in what I do I want to exactly, and that's one of the that is the $1 million question there, and unfortunately, nobody can answer that except for you. I mean, I've walked away before. Like I walked away, last year after the Rumble, or the Breakdown Rumble, and so I know we're coming up on that 30-day marker, for the Rumble and stuff in January. Like I know everybody's going to be expecting something shitty to happen at the Breakdown Rumble or shortly thereafter. I have no plans on anything like that. We already got a plan figured out of how we're going to handle the Rumble and everything. So as long as everybody's game, everything will be fine. We won't have to worry about anybody feeling that they're underappreciated, because that's what kind of happened with Monroe last year. I mean, he was built up to win, or to at least get really close to winning the Rumble. And then Samararo's brother, who was at the time Samararo was helping me book, he brought his brother in, and his brother was this rookie, and he eliminated 20 people out of 30 in the Rumble, and it caused sad face for a lot of people. And I think we've grown since then. In spite of not getting nearly as many hate messages, I've noticed though I haven't gotten as many angry kid messages lately, and that makes me feel very good. That makes me feel happy, because knowing that I think people are starting to appreciate it. Because we just recently we're celebrating, I think, 6 months since the channel was created, or the TPP Frontline channel was created. So we're coming up on our 6-month anniversary for that, and we've had a show every week since then. And so, I don't know, I really like it. Like I said, I'm really enjoying doing the show right now. I'm situated with the right people that I want to work with. And for those that come in and aren't in it for the right reasons, unfortunately, they are expendable. And that's the asshole side of me that people refer to a lot. When it comes to the developmental guys, I enjoyed having them on the show, but they are easily replaced. I mean, Michael Kelly, yeah, he was a cool guy. His character could have, went really far in TPP, I believe, but he's gonna go and do the DPW thing. And like I said, good luck to him. Good luck for Darrell or Rels, and for Gravity. I'm not gonna say good luck because everybody's been booing him tonight, so I guess boo. Whatever. Gravity. Hopefully you get your shit straight. But if he does watch this, I will never ever work with him again. Just because it wasn't the fact that he quit. It was the fact that he quit and he wasn't going to tell nobody. He wasn't even going to tell me. He removed me from Xbox. He removed me from Skype. He removed me from Facebook. He stopped following me on Twitter and everything. And I had to go find him. I was like, what's going on? He's like, oh, well, I quit CAW. And that was it. And that's why... exactly. See, we're seeing the pukies. And it is very good to look at the final product, especially when it's a product that you're happy about. I mean, we've put out shows that I wasn't always thrilled about. We've done it a lot in the past. And I can safely say, out of the 25 episodes we have now, the weakest episode we had would probably be... I would probably say it was episode 3 or 2. That was one of our weakest episodes. I think we've consistently grown since then with what we're doing, and I really like it. And I think that we're, he's one of those people that says, I'm leaving CAW, then 10 days later, he would return. Exactly. And that's an unfortunate side, because, when I said I was, when I walked away in January, and I posted up that video right after the Rumble, I was like, I'm just not going to do it anymore. I was like, I'm just going to do Call of Duty. I knew I was going to get negative feedback. I knew that, and I got a lot of it, a lot more than I cared to ever get in my life. But I also took a little bit of self-reflection time. I mean, yeah, I was having fun with the Call of Duty stuff for a little bit, but then I started missing the wrestling side of stuff, because in the wrestling game community, I mean, yes, in every game community there's people that are backstabbers. There's people that are faithful to you. There's people that are going to be your best friend, your worst enemy. There's people that are going to have your back, be like a silent assassin for you, whatever. There's always people like that everywhere in every realm that you can think of. World, like real world stuff, video game stuff, every game is exactly the same in that sense of community. Just certain communities embrace others more than some. And in Call of Duty, if you get outcasted in Call of Duty, you're just outcasted forever. Now, in the COD community, I kind of got outcasted a little bit because people misunderstood, what I was doing when I was running my Google AdWords for videos. A lot of people misunderstood what that was. It was very expensive for me to do that, by the way. Very expensive. And so I don't know. I think that kind of turned people off to me, but I'm okay with that because we were able to bounce back. And whether people like me now or they don't like me, I still will give everybody a fair shot. Whether I've talked to them or not before, whether we've had matches before, I still give everybody at least one fair shot to, show me what makes them different. And for Gravity, he was one of those guys that was in developmental last year but never got to debut. And, I was like, well, we gave him his shot. We gave him his shot. He got to be seen at the Blood and Glory pre-show. He got to be seen on episode 2 of developmental, which I don't know if people really like that match or not between him and Darrell. It was kind of I don't know. It's a little split decision. So, again, though, it comes down to what people want to do. Do they want to be remembered as the guy who's friends with everybody? Do they want to be remembered as a guy who stood up for himself? And in this sense, Gravity is just neither of those. He's a little boy. I'm sorry if he ever sees this. I'll probably tweet it to him just because I'm a douchebag like that. But yeah. You can be a man or you can be a boy. And for me, a lot of people tend to be angry with me because I do voice myself. I don't let people bully me. It's not something I do. And when I bully somebody as diehard, it's always in character. I'm not that type of person in real life. I love people in real life. I don't have many personal qualms with real life people. I'm usually pretty easy to go, to get along with, and I try to make the best out of every situation. And if there's something I can work in to make it better, character-wise, and I'm going to do it, And so, like with the Arthur's thing, when I had to take the little pot shot and be like, oh, well, you're the most expensive guy in con, I had to put my little heel twist on it. It worked. It worked for me, and I think it worked for Arthur's as well. So, and then shortly thereafter, the first PWR episode came out, but Arthur's wasn't on it. So that was a kind of sad face. That made me sad. And then, we'll see, and that's the thing, like, with GCW, like, that was a tough one. Like, I was out on my porch, but, and I just saw it on my chat, but GCW, kind of a toss-up. I tried to get motivated behind GCW on the first episode they did. Unfortunately, not the first episode, but the first Kickstart show. Unfortunately, there was some issues between one of the GCW guys and one of the TPP guys, and somehow it involved, I got involved in it, and so at that point I didn't really show support for GCW, but I would never wanted to see them, stop making shows. I never wanted to see them fall apart. So, and that's how I feel about it. I never want to see a show just die, because when people come to me and say, "Die Hard, why do you promote your competition?" And I say this with the most respect, with every ounce of dignity and respect I have. I do not consider power wrestling competition. I do not consider MCW competition. I do not consider FAM competition. I do not consider PWR competition, or DPW, or NGC, or IWL, or the defunct IWL now, I guess, or anybody. I don't consider anybody competition, because it shouldn't be like that. We're all trying to get the same viewers. I get that. We're all trying to get the same viewers, but everybody has their own taste, their own flavor that they like. And exactly like Kapow, Oh, well, thank you. I like being liked. But as I was saying, I mean, I don't consider anybody competition, and I would hope that they don't consider me competition, and I'd hope that it's in a gentleman's way of saying that, not like, oh, TPP, that's not competition, ha ha ha. It's like, oh, well, I don't consider them competition because we're all trying to do the same thing, and that's the trick to running shows. We're all trying to do the same thing, but we deliver the message in a different way. Everybody delivers the message in a different way, whether it's making a 3-hour show that takes 6 months, or if it's making a 2-hour or 1-hour show that takes a month, or if it's making, a show every week. We're all doing the same thing. We just deliver the story a different way. And that's basically, to sum it all up. That's why I don't consider anybody competition within the leagues and feds. I wish everybody could work together, but unfortunately, the society we live in nowadays, it doesn't work like that. Things just don't work like that. People can't get along long enough to, people can't get along long enough to really work together. Well, exactly. And again, it's human nature for people to think competition, or I have to be better than, or I can't be less than, I've always got to be better than. They can't be equal to, and it's not your guys' fault. It's not my fault. It's not the league owner's fault. It's not the guys on the show's fault. It's just society. It's the way people were raised. It's just, it's in everybody's human nature to want to be better than. Nobody wants to be equal to, or less than, for the lack thereof. But we do know, I think we can all agree, of one person that was less than. And we won't say his name anymore, though. George Phillips. But yeah, so at this point I'm going to wrap it up because my throat is completely dry, and I'm going to eat some dinner because it's like 9 o'clock at night, and I've just been on the run like all day today. And I hope that the stream didn't lag for you guys. Comcast have been upload speed. They're supposed to have this 10 meg upload speed, but they've been giving me 1, 2, and 3, and 4 and stuff throughout the day. So I wasn't sure if if it was gonna lag or not. So I hope everything was nice and fluid for you guys. For those of you that are thinking of starting shows or in the process of starting shows, I hope you took something from this that you like. And if you like these podcasts, we do them every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Hopefully next week I'll have some other guests with me. I wasn't going to originally do the podcast today, and my controller just turned off again. But I wasn't going to do the podcast today, but then I started getting these really nice questions that I really wanted to answer verbally instead of typing them out. So I was like, you know what, let's do it. And so that's how I did it. And yes, today is hump day. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me tonight and everything. And as you see, yeah, like I said, it's hump day. It's almost over though. It's only got a couple more hours left, and then hump day's over. And then it's track back Thursdays. I don't know. I just made that up as I came up with it. I just kind of made that one up. But yeah, thanks again for joining me, guys. This is the longest podcast I've ever done, because normally I just do it for an hour. So I kind of went 30 over, but that's okay. It'll export to YouTube just fine. But but yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully you took something from this in a positive light. I don't try to attack anybody in a negative light. That's not the type of person I am. So again, thank you for joining me. And as you can see, the Try Hard Randy Orton beat the Miz, and all that good stuff. And you can always leave us a follow too. I get those notifications and I smile on the inside when I get those. Or you can tweet to me on Twitter at the 1DH. Everybody likes to tweet to me. And you can also go to my Ask FM. And exactly, Zero learned that Die Hard isn't a bad dude. That's right, because Die Hard he's a real person when he wants to be. I could be a real person, but yeah. So thanks again, guys. And I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see you guys next week. And on the outro, though, because I'm such a nice guy, check that out. Yeah, I know you can still hear me talking. But
So I'm gonna go like this, and I'm gonna end the broadcast. So thank you again for joining me, and